Oh, yes, we are back. Another episode, Live Reality Games Podcast. I'm Daniel Ball. He's Steven Stewart. And tonight we are recapping episode 7, Survivor, season 47. And it was some heat coming at the end, Steven. I will say that. A lot of the episode I thought was good. So I'll start with that. Just what were your initial thoughts of the episode as a whole? I was impressed. I liked it. Not gonna lie.
You know, safety without power, it's a heck of an advantage, and it's hard to say no to that and take a block vote instead. And part of me wishes that Saul had gifted that to Kyle, for instance, and so we could really have seen what may have happened. But this was the most straightforward move as a, hey, let's rescue Rachel, let's let Blue eat one of their own, and then let's have all four original tribes kind of feel a level of parity. Which, yeah. I don't know if that is a good thing or not.
Yeah, I looked at it as, okay, if I'm Soul, what are my options for this? And we've talked about it, and I've talked about it in a couple episodes, is sometimes you just do the easiest thing because it's the easiest thing. And I think in this case for him, it was the easiest thing, but I don't want to hash all that out yet because that's down the line. So a little bit of
we can always go nonlinear if we need to.
All right, we'll go nonlinear. We'll fill it up. So with you, like thinking if you have this advantage and you're Saul, what would you have done? Would it have been just the easy route and just give it to Rachel and be like, well, I can use this and save her and she's going to owe me? Or was there more options? Because they didn't really go through any of the options. It was always just Rachel.
Yeah, because I think we see a lot in this episode of Blue realizing, or at least discussing realizing, if we stay strong and vote out Rachel, this looks really bad, and the 6 remaining players are just going to target us immediately. So it'll be 6 reds and 6 yellows coming after the 5 blues. And we're better off eating one of our own to not have that kind of optic. You hear a lot of discussion around that. And of course, Soul giving Rachel advantage, Rachel safety without power leaving, makes it all moot and says, Blue, you're just eating one of your own. Right? But imagine is it better for Soul's game to have there be a red-yellow alliance that's like, well, shoot, we have to work together now? But maybe for him, he's like, my life is better off with more mixture. I see myself having allies among those blue people, and I don't see myself potentially being at the top of the pecking order in this red-yellow amalgam, right? So maybe this is better off for his game in the long term. But if, however, he was confident, say, if I can ride this red-yellow wave to victory, Rachel can go, and then I can, and then we can take out the blue, and I can maybe sweep up some of the blue minority, or I feel so comfortable in this red yellow group that I can be on top, right? It felt very interesting. Who knows? Maybe it wouldn't have been this stark red yellow versus blue down the road, but
yeah, I think with it, it's really, really, really tough to in the moment go, all right, here's all my options. Mm-hmm. This is the best one moving forward, because you don't really know how things are going to pan out. So what you think might be the best option currently may not be when you get back to camp. We saw one of the comments say Blue strong, and I get all that, but if you stay Blue strong, it's like, well, like you were mentioning, you're going to go back to camp and realize you're still behind the 8 ball here.
And I think, for that blue tribe, whose name I can't remember, for the blue tribe, I think they could have just said, hey, we just wanted to make merge so badly that we were given this gift, we took it, and that's it. Like blue is done. We just wanted to get to this point, and we're ready to break apart and play. And maybe like I was reading on Survivor Reddit, one of the eggs interviews, Tiana was saying that she was still going to vote for Gabe to make it look like they were split, to give her kind of ins with the other side. And I think that could have been the answers. Like, you kind of orchestrate a split vote so you look more divided than you actually are.
Yeah, I don't know where the narrative was that they were split other than Tiana. Like, Tiana's the only one who said anything negative, and I don't even think it was negative. I think a lot of it was truth, but the problem is she said it to the other tribes, and I think with that, you got rid of her, so to me, I don't feel like is a crack. You got rid of the person who you felt was going to create the biggest divide.
Well, I mean, if you're Soul and you're rescuing Rachel, you have to ask yourself who's going home instead, right? And is the person going home better or worse than Rachel going home, right? Because let's say Soul's feeling, feels really strong about Tiana, sees her as someone he can work with, and sees her maybe as someone who's like less of a threat than Rachel. He should let Rachel go home. that
Yeah.
should have been easy, right? But in that case, he says like, "Hey, Rachel is better off for my game, my future." Then yeah, this was very much the best move.
So when he was given the advantage, and was Rachel the one who could decide how she wanted to play it, or was Soul the one who decided that she got one or the other?
I think she could decide, but she got to choose. I think she was being tricky because she only talked about one half of the advantage when she read it out loud. There's like a
Yeah.
secret scene of her receiving that advantage where she like reads the full thing.
Gotcha. Yeah, when I looked at those two and I go, well, if it's going to be Rachel, she's going to take safety without power, no question. Like, there's no reason to block a vote. And I started thinking of the reasons why someone would take the block a vote as opposed to taking the safety with power. And the only thing I could come up with is if you knew one of your people were going to be close, maybe it was a split vote and you wanted to prevent that from happening, then you could block one of those people voting. But if I
I
was
mean,
ever given safety without power, I'm taking it all day, and I like everybody else can figure it out, and I'll just be like, I wasn't there.
that's why like in some crazy world, it would be fun if Soul had given it to Kyle. Kyle's already immune. He doesn't need safety of power. Now, granted, Kyle might then like hand it off to someone else to play safety of power, but if you give it to Kyle, Kyle is more likely to play the block a vote, which have been very interesting. But I think all this is the tragedy, as Snyder's pointing out, that you have this group of 5 of all original blue. It's just like you
Yeah.
don't have like a 2-2 or 3-2-1 kind of contingent there.
Yeah, I'm interested to know if Saul comes clean to Rachel or to anybody about he was the one who gave the advantage to her. Because I don't I feel like at some point he's got to tell somebody, because if you wait until the jury, then it's like, well, you got to hope that you get there.
Well, so we've seen these kind of like advantages before. I think it's happened like once else in the new era, but I'm thinking heroes, healers, hustlers. They have the tribe swap. One of the tribes wins a reward. I think Jessica gets the block a vote advantage. And like she finds it in front of the rest of her tribes. They all discuss like who should we block? Why should we block? It's kind of a communal thing, even though it's her decision. And so I was curious, like Saul finds this, and this isn't like an idol. This is not something he can like carry it around. It's like he could have shared, like, hey guys, look what I found. Let's talk together. What would be best for us as a group? And probably would have landed on Rachel anyways.
Right. And I think how it played out, it would have yeah, the advantages do have some interesting restrictions as far as how they're played, when they're played, who can play it. You saw that with the three-headed amulet that was played for just pointless reasons. But
I mean, at least it's not a flip coin, right? As much as I can complain, it's not a coin we're flipping for immunity. I'll give it that much.
if we want to talk about something that I feel like hurts more than having advantages or disadvantages or all the restrictions put on these extras, it's the fact that we're going to do a random draw for something super important, because Rachel got screwed. Like, if it is random like they say they did, like, she was in a bad spot. And then she said it herself. She's like, I have to win immunity. That's the only way that I move forward in this.
I mean, After last episode where we got this beautiful schoolyard pick that we didn't see, when it actually does matter more, it's a random draw. And Survivor, there's always that luck, that chance, the random draw buffs for a swap. And let's be honest, this was kind of like a one world swap situation, in a sense. Survivor be Survivor.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you go into the game, you understand that at some point the odds could be stacked against you, and if you're able to make it through, then that's kind of strengthening your game. The one problem for Rachel is she can't use this to strengthen her game. She can't go to the jury and just say, "Hey, I had the odds against me. I was going to be voted out, and then I was saved." Like that does nothing to help her. But I mean, I'm happy Rachel's still in the game. I guess Steven, I'll ask you that. Are you happy she's still in the game?
I've enjoyed my Rachel contents. I like her still in the game. She strikes me as a more. And again, all of this is mediated by what we've seen and been presented by the episodes. She strikes me as a more strategic player than Tiana, and I enjoy that. I do want to bring up a point Snyder made. And we were kind of talking about will Syl tell Rachel. Snyder saying he does think he would tell Rachel. And honestly, I think Syl will tell Rachel as well. I mean, yes, you could do this big surprise at Final Travel Council. I was the one who did that, but I think it's better off telling Rachel, like, I want you with me, and that's why I send that to you.
Yeah, because if not, like, what's the point of playing it and saving somebody if you're not going to be able to utilize? Because if he doesn't tell her and he waits till the jury, I mean, one, he's got to hope that she gets there and he doesn't. But
Mhm.
I mean, you got to give that knowledge out at some point in order to count on that person's vote. But let me ask you this: no Rome this episode. How'd you feel about that? I think it was
forlorn, sad, heartbroken. I looked at that Sea of Travel Council and was like, the wrong man is there.
I bet Jeff was like, I don't miss Rome at all, and I'm glad he's not here. I don't have to pander to his antics and make a secondary seat for him and take my hugs and do all that nonsense for him. I will say this: Rome brought a level of entertainment to the game, and I can appreciate that. But I can also appreciate not seeing him on the screen with 132 confessionals every episode. So that was nice. But I will say, Snyder, we'll get to our winner picks at the end, but because I think mine's changed from day to day, and I'll talk about
same.
Yeah, I'll talk about something towards the beginning. You see Andy and Saul. Saul basically comes clean to Andy and was like, "Hey, I voted for you, and here's why." And he gives a pretty good explanation of why he voted for Andy, because he thought it was going to be him if Rome had this idol that he supposedly thought he had, whatever. But you see Andy for the first time have I guess he's had this epiphany and he knows how to play the game, or maybe I'm just oblivious to the fact that he's been playing the game the whole time and not just a doofus. But he tells Saul, he's like, "All right, cool. I'll take your word for it. But here's what you have to do. If we're going to work together, you have to do what I say. You have to vote the way that I tell you to vote. You basically you work for me now." Is the way that I took it. And I think that's the first move that Andy has made for him and his game to show some type of strategy and some type of movement, as for him to, one, break away from Sierra and Sam and stop being the third wheel, but also, how do I make my game long term and last longer? And he's starting to think about a way to the end. And so I'll ask you, was this a good episode for Andy in a sense that he was able to kind of actually have some type of clear strategy?
Mary Judith commented of Andy maybe has Adam Klein upside and maybe can fumble his way to the win right here. What I really wanted to see Andy see is trust but verify. Soul's telling you that Sam is one throwing your name out there, and we saw at least we saw a snip of that conversation in the previous episode and in the last month's Survivor, where I don't know who, but someone says, "Can we do Andy as a backup?" And Sam's like, "I guess." Like, so we see acquiescence, but it's not like Sam saying, "Boy, Andy would be a great decoy vote right here." I don't know if Andy's like anger is 100% misplaced, but I think he was disposable in that alliance. He's not core to it, and so I do like this revelation and pivot for him. And I think a team of him, Sol, and Genevieve is a great starting place for him. And I mean, I will honestly give more credit to Genevieve than Andy for what we're seeing here.
But if you're Andy and you go, all right, am I stronger with Sam and Sierra, or am I stronger with Sol and Genevieve? I don't think it's a question at all. I think Sol and Genevieve is the stronger play for him.
Mm-hmm.
Because we talked about it last week, is that Sam and Sierra are eventually going to have a target painted on them, on one of them. They're going to break them up at some point. And if I'm Sierra, I might even throw a dagger at Sam and just be like, all in on maybe all girls move or something. I'm not saying
Teeny, as soon as Teeny uttered those words, like, a girl's going home, aren't they?
Yeah. And I don't know if they cared that Tiana went home, but I think there's some truth to be said about, if the girls can actually make this happen, this might be the group of guys that they could do this to. But the problem is that how many times have we heard the theory of a girls' alliance and it just gets shot to shit and it never works?
I mean, I would like to shout out Shauna, the winner of Survival Challenge 2023. And in that season, she says, I don't want to use the word female alliance because it's nothing good comes from that. But instead, she's like, I want to play female forward, where I'm not going to say only us girls can work to get to the end, but I'd like to preserve and help the other women to get farther in the game. Right? And I thought that was a better alternative to it versus saying we need to lockstep with each other and make this happen in an unorganic way.
I mean, do you hear the guys talking about, hey, we should be guy strong and like we should just push the women out? Like I don't hear that either.
I mean, you look at like the alliances we have in the game, and a lot of them involve men and women working together, right? Sue, Caroline, and Gabe, Sam and Sierra, right? Genevieve, Sol, and Andy. Like none of these are, all of these are very mixed in terms of who's in them. Teeny's kind of with everyone.
Yeah. Genevieve floats the alliance with Andy idea, and they seem to kind of agree upon that. Is this good or bad for Genevieve's game, knowing that she's picking alliance members that are dramatically number one in terms of drama and emotion on the show? She goes from Rome, and now she's moving to Andy. I don't know if this is good, bad, or she's using these guys as shields to kind of hide behind because she knows that they're going to be chaotic and messy. I don't know.
Andy, you can probably say, is a more emotional player who's looking for a home, and I will never say no to an extra vote in Survivor.
No,
I will never say no to an extra vote who maybe hurt his win equity the day 3 of the game. And who knows, Andy might be sitting there at the end and say, here's my story. I implode on day 1. I'm at the bottom of my alliance. I'm able to squeak through. I eliminate all the original Yellow Gata players, and here I am today standing like a new man. And people were like, oh my gosh, look at Andy. Like that could be what happens with Andy, but maybe not.
I mean, that sounds like a Disney movie in the making right there. The ultimate comeback story for Andy.
I mean, we've kind of seen a little, like, some players do this. Like, think of Emily Flippen from a couple of seasons ago. She kind of had that trajectory going for her, and then she got eliminated. But like, you saw it.
Yeah, she portrayed, like, She portrayed someone who is going to say what they're thinking out loud, and maybe they don't hear themselves say it, but then other people tell them, "This is what you said," and you go, "Oh shit, I said that? Well, let me backtrack, let me figure out how to fix this." But she definitely said what she was thinking all the time, and she did a 180. I think she did play better after a while, but like that's what she wasn't my cup of tea, that's for sure. Um, wait, let me ask you, how did Gabe get on the radar?
In terms of Tiana throwing his name out.
Yeah, like, but
Hasn't she been
how
doing?
did
She's been doing that for a while, hasn't she? Like, kind of. He's been the name she's thought about or floated before.
yeah, and it's only I mean, the only thing I can think of is she told them that he was strong with Sue, and they felt as though they were running the camp.
Yeah, I mean, so there was that reward challenge where she spreads information. She talks about his idol. She shares alliances, right? Like she's been very clear. Like, I want to work with other people, and which kind of bit her today.
Yeah, and
And even like before that, she like I think her and Kyle, one of the two of them was likely going to be the next elimination.
yeah, and Kyle, I think, is showing that he's actually a pretty strong challenge player,
No
which
surprise.
yeah, but I think that's going to it's gonna hurt at some point.
Yeah,
He's gotta have some type of social game to go with it, because if he doesn't have any help, any people backing him, he's gonna run out of people, and Tiana was supposedly his number 1, and he just flat out voted for her because I guess he just didn't want it to be him. He didn't wanna be the odd person voting.
I loved Carolyn's comment when she's talking to Tiana. She's talking Tiana down from flipping, and she says, "Look, yes, I understand the optics, and that's okay because Kyle will go first." She's like, I am fully fine with it because we know who they're going to target. It's the 2-time challenge winner. Kyle will be the first vote when they target our tribe, and we'll be able to move on from there. You're like, oh, Carolyn, I love how you play.
Yep. I don't know if she will win, but
Yeah.
going back to what Snyder said about our winner picks, I don't know if she's my winner pick, but she's been in the mix before. She's been one of them.
I would love for her to win. I just don't think she's going to win.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, so here's what's so bad about for the Blue Tribe this round. They're at Tribal Council. It is a live tribal, not lively, but there's a live enough. There's some movement talking. And who's sitting down? Tiana sitting down, Gabe sitting down, Sue sitting down, and it's Caroline and Kyle talking. Right? Clearly, who's in the middle, who's making decisions in the tribe? It's looking to be the two of them. And really, we know it's Caroline. She's kind of like stealing the words from Sam. She's the glue person. And so I think if someone's looking to handicap that blue tribe, Caroline might be a person to vote out.
Yeah. And I think you're right. And people that's the downside about everybody seeing what happened at that tribal is they don't have to hear a narrative from anybody else. They saw what went down, and they could see that Carolyn had a lot of power being a swing vote one way or the other. Um, obviously they go on to the challenge and they do a rock draw. We talked about this rock draw and how unfair it was, but hey, that's Survivor. I think when you go into the game, you have to understand there's going to be a little bit of adversity or a lot of adversity at different points of the game. And for Rachel, this just happened to be it because she ended up with Rachel ended up with her on the blue team with Carolyn, Sue, Tiana, Gabe, and Kyle, while the yellow team had Sam, Andy, Genevieve, Teeny, Saul, and Sierra. Um, you know, what did you think about the challenge? I mean, it was pretty basic. Hold the
I mean,
pole.
so I love
Hold
the
the
name of
ball.
that challenge. I'm pretty sure the name of that challenge is called Audio Slave. It's meant to be like the people who are holding up the audio mics.
Yeah,
Uh, you know, I I think it's unfortunate that like you had two challenges back weeks that are like go progressively along a more narrow balance beam while balancing something in some way. And this was more endurance than the last one in terms of having to hold it up. But still, there's a balancing both on your feet, but while balancing something on your hands. I hope next week is not a balance challenge, but probably will be some sort of balance challenge as well, just because that's a very equitable way to have an immunity challenge that doesn't marginalize weaker. Like you can't do a pure strength challenge in the merge. I understand.
Yeah, I liked it. I wasn't
it's fun. I like it.
Yeah,
just
I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised at the winner. I mean, when you look at it, the eliminations, it didn't shock me how the order of eliminations as they came off. But Teeny and Genevieve ended up getting the win for the yellow team, and Kyle was the last on the blue team, so he ended up winning immunity because that meant his tribe or his 6 people had to go to tribal, so he was immune. The reward winners talk about staying strong if they have to vote, and they at this point realized that this is when we needed to worry about Rachel, is because we see her, she's going to tribal. Oh shit, it's all former Tuku and just her.
Were you surprised that it was Rachel's team going to tribal council? Because I was very surprised that her tribe her group lost.
So Gabe and Kyle, like I would expect them to be in the mix for something like that. Sue, whatever. Caroline, whatever. Rachel, she could probably be in the mix too. Tiana, I thought would be in the mix, but yeah, I thought, I didn't think it would just be a runaway, and that's basically what it was. It was Kyle versus all for a while there.
I think something else that really surprised me is if you think about narratively what we saw in the episode, a lot of focus on Andy and Saul, focus on Andy and Genevieve. Andy saying, I want to get rid of Sam. So I'm looking at these groups like there's Andy with Genevieve and Saul and Teeny. Are like I feel like we've been paid for an Andy flip, but then he wins, and so it makes you really interested and excited about like a lot of that content had nothing to do with the arc of this episode, but it's like kind of laying a foundation for what we're going to see in the future.
Yeah.
And so at this point, I don't see. I see Genevieve and Andy here for a while, because so I really thought we were being set up for them going to tribal council and that payoff. But that's why I was so stunned. Was like, oh shoot, Rachel is going home.
Well, I think what we're looking at now is Andy and Genevieve trying to hunt down all of the Gata members is what it's going to be, because I think Sam and Sierra seem to be on Andy's hit list. Rachel, who skirted elimination, is still available, but I don't know how he feels about her. And if he's aligning himself with Saul and Genevieve, he might by default have to align himself with Rachel as well, because now she's kind of married to Saul if he ends up telling her.
I don't think she's married to Saul, but like I think it's created a more of a working relationship than they maybe had to begin with.
Well, yeah, but would it be hard to vote him out if you're her after that? If let's say everything is copacetic and there's no like he doesn't do anything shady or sneaky or anything reason, and like they end up just going to tribal, wouldn't it be tough for her to put his name down on parchment after that?
I think it'd be more difficult, but I think the problem with like Saul saving Rachel, it's something that all of them would do, and it's also kind of sees, you can maybe argue this is more self-serving because they just want to see a blue member go, right? I think it'd been different if Saul had sent it to Kyle or Gabe or Sue or Caroline. It probably would have been like a real signal like that. I think I feel like that would have been a stronger signal, like I really want to work with you. I don't care if Rachel stays or goes.
Right.
So I think Rachel's gonna say like, yeah, you want to work with me, but also you can see there's more ulterior motives, as you really wanted original blue to go home.
Right. And Fair enough. And he obviously played it too for some type of benefit and payoff after the fact. So, I mean, I think he is definitely hoping that he earned a vote, he earned an alliance member, he earned someone that he can trust that's not going to write his name down. But like you said, a lot of things could happen, and Rachel's a pretty savvy person. I think she could read through some of his bullshit and decide for herself. And if she feels like she has to, and she does, I'm sure there'll be a good reason for it. I just know for me personally, if someone saved me, played an idol for me, basically, or gave me safety without power, I think it would be very hard for me to write their name down. I would be pretty loyal to them moving forward as long as they weren't detrimental to my game.
So if Andy sent you the safety without power, would you feel loyalty to Andy?
I would have to. Poor guy. He needs a friend. Needs a friend. So there's the hole in my game right there. Loyalty.
Do you want to talk about the reward?
Oh my god, these rewards. I mean,
so what food would you be most excited for at this point in the game? Would it be the ribs, the corn, the potato salad? I'm sure there's something else there. I can't remember.
I don't remember anything other than the ribs and the corn and the potato salad. But who the hell? Like, all right, look, this might be a hot take or a hot cake take. I don't know, but let me tell y'all something. All y'all folks that go to barbecues and it's 99 degrees outside, don't bring potato salad. Don't do it. It's the worst. And if you like potato salad, I'm sorry, but having potato salad when it is over 75 degrees, it is awful. And for those guys to be on a beach, like, nothing is worse than potato salad hot, and nothing is worse than a sandy potato salad. So, like, get that out of there. The corn on the cob, it's like, I don't want to eat food with my hands or have the option of food that you theoretically typically eat with your hands. And ribs are something that you eat with your hands. Corn is something that you eat with your hands. They just went to a challenge. They're all dirty and nasty and sandy. Not that it matters, but like, how about a nice milkshake? That'd be just dynamite.
Daniel, I get it. You're more of a do a mud challenge than have a charcuterie board kind of guy.
Correct. Correct. I mean, give me some. Give me some. What did you think? I mean, are you a rib guy? Are you a potato salad guy?
So I was very sad to see the leftover corn because I was because I would have been like, I don't want to touch potato salads like that. Ugh, don't like it even when it's below 75 degrees outside. But I guess I would have been very sad for the corn and the ribs. I don't know if I would have had the wherewithal to look for an advantage hidden at the reward. I guess you just remember Survivor 101, you always search everything anyways.
Yeah.
Including the decorative flowers.
I mean, I don't know how Saul, and if he would have just rolled over in his little nap session, he would have been staring it right in the face.
That's what I was expecting to happen.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be the easy route, and like Andy was not. Andy wasn't slick, and I don't know what I would have done or what you could have done to not make it look sketchy. But when you stand up and you're just kind of hovering and everybody's laying down, like, you're being very sketchy. Even Saul to an extent, and I think a lot of it is because we know what he's doing, is it looks very sketchy. But if everyone's laying down and someone's up moving about, like, I think I'm going to put some eyes on them.
So I think from a production perspective, let's kind of talk through this because there's a real risk that no one ever finds this thing.
Right.
And so I was curious that they didn't put it in the food, or they say, hey, the last person standing from the winner's side also gets an advantage, right? And so that flat out it gets you ensure that it's in the game. And on one hand, I love advantages because they're fun, they do stuff. On the other hand, you kind of always wonder what the organic vote would have been.
Yeah.
Was Rachel doomed for the get-go? Maybe she plays a shot in the dark, maybe it goes off, but Yeah, I don't know. Do you feel like they should have like made it more obvious, or just flat out handed it to a player that forced it to happen, or this is fine, just the risk of just it's never found.
I think that's the beauty of the game is that there's a risk that it's never found because I think there should be in this particular instance, this was an advantage that clearly looked like it dictated how the votes went.
Yeah.
And I think that's great for Survivor. I like that, knowing that there are, when you're on your lowest of lows, there's always a way. And it may not be you finding the way, it may be someone else helping you along the way, but that's part of the game. Um, so hiding it where they can see it and like making sure that it's found, like it, yes and no. Like what I don't like is when things are buried and they're like, "Oh, it's over there under this tree." Okay, there's 1,000 trees. Now go dig for it. Okay, let's dig for it. Oh, here's a map to another location where it's at the top of this vine and you have to go get this key that unlocks a box. And like that's just
I love the quest chains. I love kind of the multi-part versus just like, oh, you found an idol on the ground, here you go. I love players having to work or do stuff for it.
I, that would be so aggravating when
Oh, as a player, definitely, but as a viewer, I love it.
you go and you find this rolled up scroll and you're like, this is it. This is my moment. I've done something. And then it's like, oh, this is only part one. You have 3 other parts to go do. And they're all like task oriented where it's going to take you by yourself in the secrecy without getting caught like an hour to do it. Like, no, thank you. I'm good.
So you're on Survivor 48. You find the beware advantage. Of course, you open it up. It leads you on this question. You find the box. You open up. And you learn your idol's only good for one tribal council unless you risk it and do more stuff. What do you do?
I never thought about this. On one hand, I think having idle puts a target on you, and maybe I just take it and say, you know what, I'm tired. I'm ready. I'm not doing this. Survivor, I know what you're trying to do. You want me to bet the parlay when I could just singular bet and win, but you want me to add more to this. I'm not doing it. I think I'm taking the idol and I'm gonna use it if I need to, and then maybe use it as a tool or help or whatever if an alliance member at that point needs it, or I just don't use it at all. I'm like Sam, I just hold on to it and take it home and know that I could have used it if I needed it, but I didn't. So, I mean, would you go through the whole journey of the 3 parts to get the idol that will that can be played with up to 5 people left?
So it depends on how much time I have. If we've lost the challenge and I'm right there, I'm just taking the idol and I guess I'll play it tonight. I'll be safe. I do think so. I've been voted out with the idol in my pocket before in a game. I got voted out at final 7 and my idol expired at final 6. And I was so dead. I'm like, I need to hold this and play it the last moment possible. Wouldn't that be great? And I knew I was catching votes at final 7. I'm like, no, it's fine. Went home 4-3. And so that was a hard lesson to learn. And so as much as it'd be fun to have an idol that would last me and be insurance for the majority of the game, tribes of 6 or 5 are pretty dangerous. And I would be okay just playing it there and move it and getting through the round.
Yeah, I think having an idol with a small amount of people in your tribe, I think is valuable because one or 2 people that are fishy one way or the other makes a difference. And I'm like you. I'd rather just play it and know that I'm making it to the next day or the next challenge. I'm good. So because the worst feeling I think at a tribal is when you have nothing and you think you know how the vote's going to go, but you always worry. There's never a time where you're not worried unless you have an immunity idol or something to keep you safe. So I don't know.
Is there anything else about the reward tribe we need to talk about, or we can just?
I think we can just move on. I mean, obviously, there after the reward is when things start getting strategic. When people start talking about, all right, well, who's the vote? Um, and I think everyone is wanting Rachel, but I think Tiana is the only one pushing to make a move for the sake of making a move, because from what they're saying is nobody perceives the old Tuku tribe to be strong. They perceive them to have all these cracks, which whether they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. But there's talk about making a big play for Gabe, and Caroline once again finds herself in the middle of this swing, and if she goes one way or the other, it could make a huge difference as far as who goes home tonight. What I will ask is, Steven, was it ever Gabe, or were they just entertaining the idea just to appease Tiana and make her feel good when they knew deep down we're voting your ass out? Like,
All right, so are we
I'm gonna
talking
tell
about
you
the scramble, and or we're talking about at the actual tribal council?
we're talking about just prior to tribal, when they get back from the reward and they start having these conversations.
So Tiana and Kyle talk with Rachel about Gabe. Gabe talks with Rachel about Carolyn, which was fascinating. I assumed he would throw out Tiana's name, but he didn't. It's hard to tell. Like, what I thought was fascinating about this segment, even though it doesn't really amount to anything, what was fascinating was seeing Rachel try to decipher, do I have a shot or not? Right? Because Rachel has to make a decision. I'm either playing my shot in the dark and risking it, or they're telling me the truth. I don't know which. And I also don't know whether it's Gabe telling me the truth or Tiana telling me the truth. Like if I'm going to vote someone, I want to be on the right side, because ideally she walks out 4-2, 2 votes against her, or maybe they're going to a rock draw and someone will go rock draw from him. And that was something that, while we heard Gabe say, I'll go the rocks, we didn't hear Tiana say that. And because it would have been interesting had a rock draw been enforced with Rachel, Tiana, and Kyle voting as a block. Rachel can't vote. Kyle is immune. And so only Tiana would potentially draw a rock, and that might frighten the other side to flip on Gabe. I don't know.
It's a lot of what ifs that have to happen, and I think that's why. And I guess we'll go there. You ready to go to tribal and just?
Well, I guess if you were in Rachel's position and you're hearing all these things, walking the tribal council, are you voting Gabe? Are you voting Carolyn? Or are you just playing your shot in the dark?
I think I'm playing my shot in the dark.
Now, would you want to broadcast it or make it, or have it be a surprise?
I think I would have it be a surprise.
And so you don't care who goes home, because let's say worse and worse, everyone's telling you one a name or another, but it's 5 votes to you, all votes are null. You don't care who goes home then.
I don't think it would matter in my opinion. It wouldn't matter because everyone was voting for me. So like I have no allegiance at that point to anybody. I just, if I can make it to the next day, then maybe I get lucky and things shuffle around and I can figure out a new avenue. It's just, yeah, I think that gives you the best chance. I know it takes your vote away, but I think that gives you the best chance of having an opportunity. I mean, does it work?
So not even for the chaos? Like, so if you're going home, you're gonna go home, right? But the question is, can you get one of them to cast a vote on the other to like sow division, right? And maybe and like kind of like a parting word. So by openly broadcasting, I'm playing my shot, it's happening, sucks, y'all. And maybe you still get 5 votes anyways, but maybe Gabe casts his vote for Tiana. Maybe Tiana still votes cast for Gabe in anticipation of what if I can capitalize on this. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if they, I guess it would have to depend on what the feeling was as far as which way the votes were going. If you felt as though your vote was going to be important to the tribal, determination, then yeah, I would broadcast it and tell people and just be like, hey, you guys are gonna have to figure this out because now my vote that you thought you had, I ain't voting for anybody. I'm gonna play my shot in the dark, and that's gonna be it.
Now we can agree it would have been stupid for her to use the block a vote, but let's say she does. Let's say she does use the block a vote. Do you think that would have been enough to sway Kyle or Tiana if she blocks Gabe's vote? They're like, well, she's easy pickings now. Let's vote her out.
I mean, yeah, I think it just makes it easy for her to. I think it would be the dumbest move in Survivor history if she chose that over safety without power. But in the event that she did, or let's say safety without power wasn't an option and it was just, block a vote. If she blocks Gabe's vote, I think it's something that doesn't help her that much unless at tribal things get chaotic. And I don't necessarily know if I like a chaotic, like live tribal moment because she wouldn't have known she had it until she got to tribal. And so the conversations that she could have had about having it, they're just finding that out. So they may just go, you know what, this isn't worth all the chaos. I'm just going to vote you out. Sorry. And we're going to move on. But I don't know. It might have been enough to swing, Caroline over, but I think Kyle. I think Kyle was the vote.
Yeah, I mean, if Kyle and Tiana were so dead set, and you're just like, hey, you don't need Caroline, you don't need Sue. 3 is enough. Gave us no vote. Maybe that's enough, but the correct answer was just take safety without power and bounce. So
yeah. So we go to tribal. All right. I thought it was funny, as sad as this sounds. Okay. Tiana is pouring her heart out emotionally, and then behind her, people are just chatting, and she's just oblivious. And then she finds out, and she's like, "Oh shit, I need to stop this boohoo session and save myself," because she didn't do a very good job. She wasn't able to save herself, but obviously they find out that Rachel's playing the safety without power. She bounces. Saul puts on his acting chops. He's like, "Oh, what? Huh?" He's like Keanu Reeves. Huh? But yeah, so they're all trying to figure it out, and who do you think they think played it? Is it going to be Andy just because he's the easy guy to pin it on? I
mean, maybe because Andy was so visibly looking, but they probably would say, I don't know. I mean, how much do you honestly care? It's like, it was a one shot. It didn't affect me. My game seems better off for it. It's like, okay, whatever. They come clean, great. If they don't, life goes on.
I mean, I just say it was Rome played it on his way out. It was Rome.
That would have been fun.
Last moment of fame. Rome plays his advantage.
Would have been interesting is if Rachel lied how she got it.
Yeah.
Right? Because she's like, I found this in my bag. Right? If she just said, like, hey, I have an advantage. I'd like to play it. And she has no sense of where it came from. Or she says, like, I found this at camp. Like, she could have hidden the source of it.
All right, so let's say that she does that. Right? How does that help her?
It masks that it was given to her, which means you can possibly have more of a secret. Like Saul can say, hey, I'm the one that gave it to you, and therefore, like, people don't know, like, oh, one of the 6 in it. I don't know if it helps her, but she could have.
Yeah. Do you think that after the fact she regretted saying that she got it that she was gifted it?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I agree. Having it in secrecy and coming up with just saying, "Oh, I found it," all right, cool. Like, you now can keep that a secret, and you're more apt to have somebody who actually did it come and tell you.
I mean,
But
do you
I don't
want to
know.
bet? So do you want to take a bet whether Saul does like approach her next episode?
Next episode, ooh, I mean, I don't foresee this. I think he either tells her next episode or he doesn't say anything about it. I just don't foresee this being a 3 episodes down the line, this big
Yeah,
reveal that, that he played it.
yeah.
I think Saul is going to tell her, but I'm pretty confident he's going to tell her or she's going to find out it was him. But I think he's going to tell other people. That's the problem.
He'll tell Teeny, and Teeny will tell everyone.
Yeah, she could tell everybody too. Because she tells everybody everything. And I know that's not a popular opinion on the live reality games crew, but Teeny, she's a narc. She snitches on everybody. So, but
Teeny's only a narc if you're not in her core lines.
yeah, I mean, I like Teeny. She's good. I think she's playing a very good game. She's playing the fence and friends with everybody, which I like people like that. I think she's true to herself, true to who she is. But I think at some point she has to. I mean, wouldn't you agree that she's going to have to solidify something? I don't think you can just rely on being friends with everybody to continue to get you through, because you're going to have to start using people's words to get yourself further with other people. So
I
I don't
mean,
know.
it'll be interesting to see what happens. Like if we can, because we don't really hear from Teeny this episode. Because Teeny's lost Keyshawn. We don't know who Teeny's number one is. I'll be curious if we do see Teeny start meaningful, like connect with someone. Like, all right, here's where I stand. So here's my kind of question to you, looking at the outcome of this episode. Tiana eliminated. Was there anything Tiana can do, or does this all go back to when TJ's voted out and that was just the wrong decision for her?
I don't think there's anything she could have done. I think if she was going to go against Gabe, she needed to not have said anything at the reward, or at least in front of Sue. She needed to be able to know that Sue and him were aligned. And I think at that point, once she said that, it kind of killed her momentum in trying to make that play, because I think that is her move, and I think she can garner enough people to make that move. But Sue let Gabe know prior to it happening, so he was able to probably have conversations for the past 2 weeks about Tiana. Like, we got to move on Tiana, because when I look at the votes and the tribal, there was a lot of emphasis put on Caroline being the swing and having really the ultimate decision. But to be honest, I think Kyle was the guy who solidified the tombstone for Tiana, because if anybody thought that someone was going to vote with Tiana, she thought it was going to be Kyle. And so that's 2 votes that she thought that she had for whoever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Kyle could, see the writing on the wall, and he's like, you know what? Like,
He jumped ship.
I can't be behind votes again. Like, I got to be on the same page with these guys, because if I vote Gabe, then it's my vote, her vote for Gabe, and it's everyone else for Tiana, and she's still going to go home. So I think he made the only move that he could make, but I think they needed to, if they were going to get Gabe, they needed to do it secretly, not outwardly over the past couple weeks.
Yeah, I think Tiana was doomed by this twist. I think the only thing I can think of, because Tiana's whole game is kind of shaped up in this trajectory would be for her not to have flipped on TJ and to have forced rocks or forced something to happen at that first Blue Tribal Council. Because if it's her, Kyle, TJ, Gabe, and Gabe, and Carolyn, Gabe probably goes home instead.
Yeah, agree. What's your thought on having like a live tribal? Are you a fan, or do you?
I'm glad they mic up the players now, so we know what they say.
Yeah, I think that in this particular, I'm not a fan of live tribals, and the reason being is because I'm not a friend of chaos, and that's what they are. And it's a lot of chaos, and it's a lot of like second guessing. And in this particular instance, I think you had to allow the players the chance to talk,
Yes.
because this was such a game changer of a move to do in the tribal, because it completely altered the voting process. And had they not had that chance to talk, I don't know. I still think it would have went the way that it went, but it wouldn't have been as entertaining.
So you'd be a fan of a super glue advantage, an advantage that prevents a player from getting out of their seat during tribal council.
Yes, stay in your seat. Here's a piece of tape. You can tape any player's mouth shut. They cannot talk for the remainder of this tribal.
I think I'm with you. Live tribals have their time and place, especially when something when something's so destructive as like the obvious boot leads by unknown advantage, and was like, well, what now, right? So no one planned for that. Surviving Bloomington season 6, they had a double vote. First vote went haywire, and then everyone just scrambled because everyone's like, that's not what we thought would happen, and now what are we doing now?
Yeah.
So like it has its time and places, and it can be fun. It's not every round needs a live tribal.
No. You want to talk about playing LRG that's 1 to 3 and even like 6 days, once you can condense a survivor game into a small amount of time. If you're doing a live tribal every single tribal council, like, you're just mentally exhausted. Like, even when you're done playing the game, if it was just a straightforward game and it was just you show up to tribal, you vote, and then you go back, you're still exhausted after it's all over with. But the amount of like thinking and processing my small brain has to do for a live tribal, I couldn't do it for 3 days. I just couldn't. So the vote is the vote, and Tiana goes home. And what I found out is Tiana was an alternate. Did you read that? She was
I didn't know
an alternate, not for this season, but for a previous season. I think the season that D won, I think Tiana and Austin were both alternates, and Austin ended up getting on, and she didn't. But she went and she stayed the 2 weeks until they told her she could go home. And then she got casted for this season. So I think it's a pretty cool, story to be able to say that you didn't make it the first time and you ended up staying in it and you were able to be on it. Here's my last thought in regard to this tribal. Did you know that she wasn't going to be on the jury?
Yeah, that tends to have Survivor has had the jury start at 11 these recent seasons, and so like I knew that was coming. It's kind of like what we kind of talked about last week, of like the merge but no jury. When should jury start? Should a merge always require a jury? It's disappointing to make the merge and not be on jury when you're like, oh, this is such a milestone. But the merge, you're all starting the merge at 13. It's large, so I don't know.
Yeah, I think if you're going to make these big moves and do things differently, then do it differently. I mean, have a bigger jury this time. I don't know. I wouldn't
make the merge smaller. Make the merge at 11, right? Because I think this kind of gets to one of my thoughts with episodes. Like, this was kind of again a weird pre-merge. This kind of just felt like a swap episode in disguise, right? Yes, everyone's together, but in more of a one world situation where we're gonna have to swap the tribes into two teams. Only one tribe is going to the tribal council, and we'll merge them back together again. I mean, it's I don't know. I've liked Modern Survivors like Final 10 and onwards because the votes tend to be more pure. These early merge votes, you just accept like these aren't going to be normal, and the game is going to be very stilted as a result.
I think that's from an entertainment standpoint. I think that's what they're looking for. They want these tribals to be chaotic and unpredictable. You know, Mary's saying she prefers merge at 11 and then earn the merge is dumb. Yeah, last week we said a lot of the same things, and you know, Steven just reiterated like the merge at 11 and have a smaller tribal or smaller jury and move forward. I'm good with that.
Mm-hmm.
Or what you do is you say, you know what? All 20 of you players, guess what? You made the merge. You're on the jury. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Season 50, everybody's on the jury.
Well, I mean, we've kind of had that with Edge of Extinction. I think what makes it more palatable is like most people stick around the edge, so everyone kind of there's kind of a people. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, small live games, I'm a fan of ever making the jury. I've liked kind of variants I've seen where I've seen games where like the pre-merge they get one jury vote collectively, so they decide on who they vote for. Or it's like, yeah, hey, if you stick around as a pre-jury member, you can vote at the end if you like have the gumption for it. So I don't know.
Well, either way, Tiana, peace out. It was real. So just to go through the votes, Tiana voted for Gabe. Stu, Kyle, Gabe, Caroline, they all voted for Tiana. Tiana goes home. Sad. She was very sad. I don't know. Do you think they're really sad about it, or they're just like, oh, thank God it wasn't me? Like, is it more like thank God it's not me, or do they like really feel like bad that they had to vote her out?
This is something they've been with for 2 weeks, right? And it's over this extremely intense experience. I think you do feel bad, especially when she's having a very emotional reaction and sobbing on her way out. How can you not feel bad about that?
Yeah.
So I think there's a real human element, but Survivor is a callous game.
I can tell you who didn't feel bad about that. Gabe didn't feel bad about that. He was like,
I think what was like our one Gabe confessional. It says him going like, "Oh my wound." I can't remember what he said, but it's again in the line of like my wounded boar. No, they're all just pawns for me to play with. It's something to that extent, right?
Oh man, Gabe. I don't foresee Gabe winning, but
props to his social gameplay because he's only doing this for the confessionals. Because clearly people like him, want to work with them. Like when he hugs like Rachel, he looks at the camera like, it's.
Now that you say that, I remember that moment, and I'm just like, well, I mean, okay, but like, I don't. Is that how he is with everybody?
I assume he's lovely enough that Sue and Caroline feel like, yes, we have an unbreakable trio right here, right? If he was doing this to their face, I don't think they'd have that reaction.
What do you think Kyle does moving forward?
I mean, so if you're Kyle, do you just say I have to win out, or do you just like, maybe I should lose the next challenge and make myself a little vulnerable, let other people paint themselves as the challenge threat?
He's got to do something. Like, I will never, and this will be my downfall for any LRG survivor that I play. I would rather win than lose. And that's just a personal competition thing, but it's also, I know if I win, I don't have to worry about anything else. I know that I'm good. And so if I can control that, then I'm going to do everything in my power to control that. And yes, that would put a target on you, and it would probably get your ass voted out quickly. But if I'm going to bet on someone, I'm going to bet on myself. Like,
yeah, that's a good point.
I don't want to bet on Andy to keep me safe. I mean, come on now. But I think you're right. He's got to do something to take the edge off him. He's going to need to have some type of advantage. There's that word again, advantage. We had one played, so we know one's coming back out, baby.
I mean, there's a merge idol somewhere. Someone will find it
Yeah.
eventually.
But I think, I think
more interesting. Tiana, we never heard Tiana say anything about Sue's idol, which is fascinating to me.
And so now Caroline is the only one that knows that Sue has an idol.
So Sue's secret is safe with just Caroline, which is a real win for Sue. Let's be honest.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I don't foresee Sue being in any kind of trouble. I try to picture, okay, if Sue is going to be part of the conversation of going home, then how does it happen? Like, what would have to happen? And I don't foresee her game changing much. And I see there being a ton of other targets outside of her. And I see people just going, oh, well, we don't have to get her right now. We can get her next time. And it'll always be, well, we can get Sue next time. And then before you know it, they're down to 5. And guess what? She lucks up and wins immunity. Something silly, or plays her immunity idol. And there she is.
Which Sue secret are you talking about? Her age or her idol? We'll never know.
Look, Mary Duda 444. Let me tell you something about Sue. Sue will tell you she's 45 and she looks 72. And if she wants to hang on that little carrot and dangle it in front of people, and people are going to bite and nibble at it, they need to go home too. Because if they think that lady is 45, something's wrong. Because, after a couple days of no shower, no deodorant, rolling around in the sand, in the mud, you start looking a certain way. Let's say it's 10 days, 15 days. I mean, at some point, that Botox is going to run out, and she's going to look every bit of 72. So, 72 Sue. Go ahead, girl. I hope you're there in the final 3. Go Sue. That's my speech for Sue. Go ahead, Sue. Go get yours. Next episode, Steven, you get the auction. It seems like are we going to get the same auction? Are we going to get a twist? Is it going to be different?
I mean, last time we had an auction, they basically said whoever is left standing is disadvantaged. And oh gosh, what's his name? The returning player, Bruce, I think got disadvantaged and voted out as a result. I mean, I don't mind them putting some sort of twist on it. I don't think they can do the same one. So I look forward to seeing what Survivor R&D has cooking.
Do you enjoy the auction? Are you a fan of the auction?
Yeah. I love watching auctions. I love having auctions. Auctions are quite entertaining. I think there's a lot of good ways you can use auctions that I don't understand why Survivor doesn't do it. Either hide the clue or advantage in something, so get a giant jar of candy like Survivor Australia, stuff the advantage in there for someone to find later, or like Surviving Realfoot one time said, hey, every item you buy, you get a raffle ticket, and we'll have a drawing at the end. And so try to buy as much as possible.
That's a good idea. Yeah. Let's start with this. Do you think there's going to be idols or advantages in the auction? Or is it simply just going to be food or drinks or some type of comfort?
50-50 chance, either there'll be no advantages but a disadvantage, or there will be some sort of advantage so that they'll hopefully have a good mechanic for.
Yeah, I hope there's something. I enjoy the gameplay of, let me go all in on this. Mm-hmm. And sometimes say that this is an advantage or this is something big. And so people will do that. And a lot of times they don't. And they're just kind of guessing, especially when they leave it all like when they leave it covered. Then people start going, oh, this is something good if they're not going to show us what it is. But
or there's letters from home, and that'll always be a good moment. Can't say no to the tears on Survivor.
Yeah, you know how I feel about letters from home. I already told you. If they told me like I don't need it, not for 26 days. I love my kids. I love my wife, but I'll
for
see you when I
30
get back.
for 39 days, would you say yes?
No, absolutely not. I would use it.
What's your limit? 50 days?
I think 2 months would have to be the limit. I think 60 days that would be pretty tough.
Okay.
But here's the thing. For me, as long as I know when the end is, so if I knew, all right, in 60 days, you're definitely, or here 40 days, you're definitely going to be able to talk to your family again. It is way easier than if they said, well, you either take this shot now or you don't know when it's going to come again. Obviously in a game of Survivor, you know how many days that you have, but like theoretically, if the game was infinite long, like
I'll take the letter.
Yeah, I'll take a letter, but I don't need it. That's for sure. In this game, for the month that they're there, that would be the conversation I'd have on the way out, and see how when I get back. I think Big Brother, a 90-day game, that would be pretty tough. That would be really tough.
I'd go insane.
Definitely. Yeah, it would be tough. Well, I mean, you don't have any connection to the outside world. You don't know what's going on. So
I'm trapped with insane people, so I too will go insane.
What else we got?
Let's go back to Sanders' question from earlier.
Okay. Ooh. Well, you want to go first, or you want me? I think
I can BS something.
Okay, go ahead.
So coming into the season, after watching Tina in Survivor Pennsylvania, I want Tina to win, and that's still the case. Tina would be my ideal winner pick. What a celebration that would be for the LRG community. After this episode, though, this was some good Genevieve content, right? Genevieve was immune, wasn't involved in the things, but the scene with her and Andy and how you kind of see her setting stuff up, and that was such a great episode earlier on with her shifting the vote to Keyshawn. It makes me think, oh shoot, I think Genevieve really seems to be in a good place where she's not going to be targeted. She's not this blue blob. She's not Sam and Sierra. She's kind of this mixture of others. This red tribe is people are not going to be thinking about because it's the smallest group of them all. I'm feeling pretty bullish on Genevieve stock right now.
I feel you, and if I was gonna give you a top two, Genevieve would be in the top two, and for the sake of being different, I'm not gonna pick Genevieve
or Teeny.
I'm gonna or Teeny, and Teeny would be in my top three. I hope that I hope at the very end she's there with a chance to win.
Yes,
I'm going Sue. Just kidding. I'm not.
I was like, oh my god.
Here's the thing with Sue. If she can continue just to kind of fly under the radar, she has a chance of making it deep.
Yeah.
The problem is she's got to do something big, and
it's an idol. She can do something big.
She can, but will she? Because all it's going to take is for Caroline to say something and force her to play it. Then it's like, well,
it's Caroline's to claim.
Right. I can't do anything big because now everyone knows that I'm going to play it, or everyone knows that I'm going to do something with it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and and to be honest, even if she does play it, I don't know what big move she could do, because I think the real gameplay win in that is that Caroline knows and didn't tell anybody, not the fact that Sue has it, because Sue thought she had it and nobody knew, but she was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
kind of like her age. She thinks nobody knows how old she really is, but we do. So going back to the original question, Sue, I hope you go a long way. I hope you and Teeny and my winner pick are right there. So my winner pick after this episode, I have not been a fan of this guy at all. At all. And I thought he spoke like a quitter would speak in the very first episode. And I thought that he was emotionally weak and chaotic and
Rome?
messy. And yeah, yeah, he still is chaotic and messy. But I saw glimpses of a guy who is starting to figure out how to play the game. And based on what I'm seeing, based on where he's at, based on who he's aligning himself with, I think Andy is playing a pretty good game right now. And so, Snyder, just like I said at the beginning when you asked the question first, this answer changes from day to day. So my answer today is Andy. But if you ask me next Friday when we do this again, it could be someone totally different. So, but if you want to lock me in on something, I'll lock me in on Andy. And I don't like Andy at all, but I just think he's starting to play the game really well, and he's starting to put himself in a good position with the right people who I think may allow him. Do you think Saul has a chance to win? Because
I mean,
there's people out there that are like, oh man, like they're setting this up for a good story for Saul to be the winner. And I'm like, okay, I can kind of see it, but
I mean, we've been getting more Soul content. I mean, I think he was so invisible like those first 2 episodes or so. I mean, it'd be hard to think that the winner would have such a quiet merge. But then again, look at Erica. Had a very quiet pre-merge because she was on the winning tribe. So it could happen. I mean, I've been more positive on him as well. I think that red trio in general, I think is going to go farther than expected in this game, bare minimum.
Is it because Rome's gone?
Because Rome is gone. I think Rome leaving was a gift to those 3.
Yeah, and if we were to ask Teeny after this game's over, do you think she would say the same, that Rome was the elevator to their game? Like
Depends.
Him being gone?
I think it'll be very results oriented, but quite possibly.
Okay. All right. That leaves us with our current merged tribe, the Becca tribe. Is that right, Becca? BEKA?
Sure.
All right, sure. Genevieve, Saul, Teeny, Sam, Sierra, Andy, Rachel, Gabe, Sue, who has an immunity idol, and Caroline. Any last thoughts, Steven? I know you usually have something.
Bring on the auction. I'm excited. Bring on a good auction. Don't repeat what we saw last time in season 1. 44, 45.
Yeah, give
44,
us something.
45.
Give us a nugget of something spicy, something to look forward to.
Bring back Jeff Probst with a knife. That's what our auction needs.
Knife, Jeff. All right. Well, then let's get out of here. Obviously, another good episode, another good recap. We got episode 8 coming on Wednesday, and we'll be back Friday to break it all down. You can check Live Reality Games out on YouTube. You can subscribe, hit the notifications. That way, when content's uploaded, you get the notification. You could be the first person to view it. You could be number 1. Like, you could be one of 10,000 people, which would be great. Live Reality Games casting. Steven, Instagram, right? If you're looking for a live reality game.
If you're looking for a live reality game, check out the LRG casting on Instagram, run by the wonderful Melanie Bartlett. With all the games that are out there, it'll be the easiest and fastest way to know who's casting and where the games are. I think we're still roughly in the casting season right now. A lot of games kind of cast around late summer, early fall, and try to have their cast finalized by early winter. But there are some later games as well that will pop up early next winter, spring too.
Yep. Check it out. If you are someone who is a veteran, you know what to do. If you're someone who hasn't dabbled in live reality games, whether it's fear or anxiety or just can't find the right one, check it out on Instagram. You'll find the right one, and trust me, just dive in. You'll love it. It'll be fun. Whether you're the first vote or the winner, it's all good. It's all good. All right, Steven, another great episode. Let's get up out of here. Appreciate y'all. We'll see y'all next week. Peace.
Take care, everyone.